Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, is tea overpriced? In this video, we're going to be discussing the factors that influence the price of tea, and then we're going to be asking the ultimate question, is tea too expensive? This video is going to go under the tea sourcing playlist. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then make sure you hit it with the thumbs up. The more thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then go click that button. We are at the tail end of our big spring tea sampling session. We have sampled over the last 3 months approximately 1,000 teas, and if you're following us on our Twitter and Instagram, you will have seen a couple of days ago I posted a picture of our last batch of samples. We had 140 to get through, but we are getting there. And I thought, while I was tasting these teas, after we taste the teas, when we reveal the price, I thought it would be interesting to talk to you guys about how the price fluctuates with teas and what factors influence those changes. So let's begin. Before I start, I want to first state that, of course, the quality of the tea, the way that it tastes, the experience, the way that it looks, has got a relationship to the price, as you would expect. But I'm not going to be talking about that now. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is what other factors actually manipulate the price, because once you know those factors, you might be able to make better buying decisions. So let's start with the first one, and that is the demand for the tea. Basic economics states that given a limited supply, if demand increases, the price will inevitably increase. And we've seen this time and time again, certainly in my 15 years of tea sourcing. We see these waves where certain types of tea just get a lot more attention, either in the West, but more importantly, in the country of origin, be that Taiwan, Japan, or China, and suddenly the price increases. It's all understandable. However, in recent years, we've seen some crazy increase in prices, especially in tea types like Dansong tea and also raw pu'er. Raw pu'er has doubled, if not tripled, in price for certain areas in the last few years. That's a massive increase in price. So my job as a tea sourcer is to obviously understand those increases in demand, but to not focus my attention too much on just one single type of tea, which in its own way would contribute to this inflation of price, but to spread the net wider, to focus on many different types of teas, to try and get people interested in types of teas that may have less demand but are incredible teas in themselves, so that we can try to smooth out these tea bubbles. So let's move on to the second main factor which affects the price of tea, and that is yield or supply. It's again basic economics that the less you have of something to sell, the higher the price tag that you can charge for it. And this is certainly the case for tea. We see commodity tea produced with hundreds and thousands of tons of a certain tea, which commands a very low price. And as you move up the scale, you get to medium quality tea, good quality tea, high quality tea, premium quality tea. The supply amount tends to reduce. And when you reach those really rarefied teas, they command a very high price tag because there's hardly any of it to go around. So all the tea lovers are fighting for it, and therefore the producer can jack up the price. Now, this is because the terroir might be very limited. It can only grow in a certain area, certain terroir. It might be because the cultivar is a very hard cultivar to produce, or it might be that the tea requires the tea tree to be very old, and so therefore it takes a long time to cultivate that tea, and it's produced in very small amounts. But it's not just specific to a tea, it's also specific to the year. So you get fluctuations from year to year. Some years the weather is perfect and produces a lot of high quality tea. Some years the weather is no good and the amount of quality tea dramatically reduces, and suddenly the price shoots up. So yield is a big factor. Of course, farmers and producers can work on increasing yield, but increasing yield doesn't necessarily mean that the quality is going to stay consistent, because again, it might take a long time for those plants to really bed in and produce good tea. Or maybe you just literally have run out of terroir that makes a certain quality tea, and whilst you can grow the tea in other areas, it's not going to produce anywhere the same quality. So that's your second factor, yield. Let's move on to the third, and that is the production costs. Tea is a product. it needs to be produced from growing to picking to processing all the way to transportation. And along that journey, there are obviously associated costs. Be they staffing, equipment, machinery, storage, overheads, all of these factors need to be combined together to create the final price tag. Now, certain tea types will have their production costs weighted in certain areas. For example, with white tea, there's not that much processing, but most of the production cost is going to be focused on the picking process. So staffing for the picking process, especially for silver needle, where the picking is so fine. In the case of oolong teas, there's less of a panicky picking phase, but there's a really intense processing phase that can take 2 to 3 days, and then it can go to roasters. And so most of the production costs for oolong will be on the processing phase. For ripe pu'er, for example, most of the production cost will be on the post-fermenting phase. So different tea types will have their production costs weighted in different areas along the journey. It's not just that, but also where the tea is produced that will affect production costs. So for example, ball-rolled oolongs produced in Taiwan are going to generally command a higher price tag than ball-rolled oolongs produced in China, simply on the basis that the staffing costs are going to be higher in Taiwan compared to China. And then you can go one step further than that and say Thailand has even cheaper staffing costs compared to China, and therefore their ball-rolled oolong will be even more affordable. And that's why a lot of Taiwanese producers are producing tea in Thailand, in northern Thailand, and then selling it on, not quite correctly, but selling it on as Taiwanese tea at a bigger markup. So production costs, major influence in the price of tea. Let's move on to the fourth factor, and that is reputation. This is one that we always have to be careful of. There are certain areas, for example, that command a higher price tag simply on the basis that they have a reputation for producing finer quality tea. There are some producers that have a reputation for producing high quality tea, and therefore they can increase their price. There are also things like organic labeling, which again, organic has this reputation for producing better quality tea, and therefore a lot of producers can increase their price point on them. Now, sometimes these reputations are valid. Sometimes there are certain areas that simply produce better tea. So for example, in my experience, yenchas, if you taste a yencha from the Zhengyan area of Wuyi, it does tend to produce, like for like, on average, better quality tea than areas outside that area, and it has a much higher price tag. However, there are some things that I don't think really deserve the higher price tag. For example, Longjing tea or Dragonwell or Imperial Green. Now, every tea seller wants to purchase tea from Westlake area, from the Dragonwell area, from Lions Peak, from these very famed tea fields that are meant to be producing high quality tea. And there's a lot of fakery around there where, there's a very limited supply coming from Lions Peak, for example, but everyone claims to have Lions Peak tea. So there's a lot of nonsense going on. But even if you do source your tea from Westlake, does it justify, does the quality justify the price tag? In my opinion, in my experience over recent years, you can actually find much better tea at a much lower price point from areas outside those famed areas with a high reputation. The same is true for producers, and I have to say, we've done a video about this, I'll put a link in the description below. The same is true, in my opinion, for the average of organic teas. There are some really great organic teas, but it is often the case that the organic certification is only invested in by the producers when the tea quality is not that great and they're trying to increase the price point simply on the reputation of organic. So reputation is a big one, and I would advise all consumers out there to be very careful when purchasing teas simply on the basis of reputation. Let's move on to the fifth factor, and that is how close you buy to source. So you'll hear about this often with tea sellers, but not just with tea, with coffee and other products as well, is that they buy direct from source. What does this actually mean? Well, in the tea world, generally, this is a generalization, it starts with the farmers. Some farmers actually produce finished tea. A lot of them don't, depending on the tea type. They may just farm the land and pick the tea, but you may be able to buy directly from the farmer. Then next step up is that farmers sell their leaves to the producers. Sometimes the producers have their own farmland, but the producers will generally finish the tea. There may be other companies that they sell their tea to for final processing, but every step up the chain, obviously, the price is generally going to increase. Then you have provincial wholesalers, in other words, wholesalers that are in a particular province or even a particular village area that purchase bulk amounts and sell on, and it goes all the way up the chain to the massive wholesalers, the massive international wholesalers, which we certainly don't purchase from, which will sell on to usually the international market. Now, theoretically, the closer to source you buy, the cheaper the price is going to be for like tea. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes the provincial wholesalers will, because of the relationships that they've built up with their farmers and the fact that they buy in bulk in large quantities, can sometimes, negotiate a better discount than me going direct to the farmer. It's usually like for like, it's relatively similar, so obviously the more network you have, the larger the network you have, the better it is. And if you try to cover your bases where you've got deals with certain farmers, deals with certain producers, and deals with certain provincial wholesalers, you can usually find better tea than if you are just going to a limited variety of farmers. But certainly, how close you get to source has an impact on the final price tag. Right, let's move on to the sixth and final factor which affects the price of tea, and that is tricksy marketing. Now, of course, tea is a product, and just like any product, there is marketing that starts from source, all the way from the farmers to the producers to the wholesalers, all the way up to the consumer. There is marketing. Now, marketing should be about transferring knowledge about a product, making sure that you guys out there understand what this tea is, and you can make a judgment call about whether or not you want to make a purchase and try the tea. But there is many instances of tricksy marketing, let's say. It might be that they're talking about fake provenance. For example, in the case of Longjing tea, as I said, they might say it comes from Lion's Peak, but it doesn't. You can have tricksy marketing, for example, in processing, for example, with milk oolong. Milk oolong is a classic artificially scented oolong tea that mimics Jinchuan Taiwanese oolong. And oftentimes, the producers or the wholesalers will not tell that information to the sellers, and the sellers will then pass on bad information, and they will increase the price because it's like some natural, incredible milk-watered or milk-irrigated tea, which is all nonsense. You've also got that in the case of Oriental Beauty or Eastern Beauty, where everyone says that their tea is bug-bitten. It has to be. Our tea is bug-bitten for sure. There is not one Oriental Beauty or Eastern Beauty out there that I have not seen advertised as bug-bitten, but it can't all be bug-bitten. In the case of Pu'er, tricksy marketing is rife with fake wrappers, fake aging, etc., etc., etc. So whilst I appreciate, we're using YouTube amongst all the other platforms to market. Marketing is part of the process of bringing a product to market, but we try to do it responsibly, make sure we give the right information so that you can make correct, informed decisions. But along the way, there is plenty of tricksy marketing that will manipulate the price and inflate the price. So part of our job is to try to, first of all, taste without any knowledge of that tricksy marketing, just taste and judge on experience, but also to try to sort the wheat from the chaff so that we can disseminate and spread correct information to all of you guys out there. So those are your 6 main factors that affect the price tag of tea. Of course, there are others, but I think that those are the 6 main ones that you should know about. Right, let's go into actually talking about a specific example of that. I have here in front of me 3 green teas. These were part of that big sampling session that I did yesterday. We've got Huangshan Maofeng, aka Misty Peak, a very famous and renowned green tea, Chinese green tea from Anhui province. We've got Kaihua Longding or Naked Spring, a less famous but still relatively well known, but definitely less famous green tea from Zhejiang province. And then we've got the very famous monkey-picked or Hokui tea, Monkey King tea, which is again from Anhui province. And I have to say, Anhui province, in my opinion, tends to bump up their tea prices a little bit too much based upon reputation. Let me show you these teas up close. So that's Huangshan Maofeng, and this is Kaihua Longding. And then we have our beautiful, flattened, lovely, stunningly beautiful leaves of Hokui. Right, I'm going to brew a couple of these teas, but I just wanted to quickly mention Hokui and Huangshan Maofeng, because the truth is, unless something changes in the next few weeks, we are not going to be buying in any Huangshan Maofeng or Hokui this year. Because, in my opinion, the price tag is overinflated for the quality of the experience in the cup. Now, with Hokui, it looks beautiful, it has character, incredible. But, you know, what we want to pay for is obviously the visuals are important, but what we really want to pay for is the experience in the cup, the taste, the aroma, the mouthfeel, the sensation, the finish, all of those things. And in my opinion, I've tasted dozens of Hokui this year. They command a very high price, but are not worth it. This one here, Huangshan Maofeng, is the same thing. You have a tea which has got such a reputation and commands a high price, but doesn't live up to that price tag. All of these teas cost about the same amount. They're all top quality teas. They're around 30 to 35 cents per gram retail. But what I wanted to do is demonstrate to you, and I'm going to taste them just to be sure. So I've got Huangshan Maofeng here going into the flute brewer, and I've got Kaihua Longding or Naked Spring going in here into the flute brewer. We're going to give them a quick rinse, and I'm going to taste them both. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same as what I felt last night, but let's see. And that is that, you know, like for like, cent per cent, if you like compare the price point, you know, and the quality and the experience of the cup, there's a world of difference between these teas, even though the price is the same. Quickly pour this out, and we're going to give this a brew. We're going to give this, you know, a fairly substantial brew. We're not going to do too quick a brew on this, because I really want to draw out all the flavors of these very delicate green teas. We're brewing with our 80-degree water. That's 175 Fahrenheit. In our flute brewers here, keep it very, very simple. Flute brewer is great for these kinds of teas where you can really see them brew. And as I said, I mean, we've tasted, again, dozens of Huangshan Maofeng, and I know that clients out there are asking us, have you got any Huangshan Maofeng coming in this year? And, you know, we really would like to purchase. Same with Hokui. We did have a Hokui in 2017, but we, again, couldn't find one of this kind of more standard type. And we had to go for an even more expensive one, which was hand-pressed, just to try and really get some flavor out of it. In my experience, green teas are one of the biggest culprits for this. That, you know, you get these teas which have got such reputation, and people are like searching for them. These teas like Huangshan Maofeng and the Hokui. But, you know, when you compare the quality compared to a similarly priced tea from a different province or a similarly priced tea of a different type, they are not the same. Right, we're going to give these a taste. I'll pour some Huangshan Maofeng in here. And we've got Naked Spring in here. Both very beautiful color, nice and clear colored. Gorgeous. Let's taste them. Light, delicate, elegant, got nice little bit of rockiness, nice chalkiness going on. I'm smelling this one, so I'm going to put that one aside. Great, it's a lovely tea, really lovely tea. You hand that to me, I'm super happy. It's delicate, it's elegant, it's fresh, it's got green, it's got a little bit of cut grass, it's got a bit of fruit, it's got some floral notes in there. What flowers? Very, very light white flower notes in them. I like it. Is it worth the price? In my opinion, no, it's not. Let's try this one. Bursting in your mouth. Bursting spring floral bouquets. I'm getting fruits, I'm getting those star fruits, I'm getting nuts, I'm getting pumpkin seeds, I'm getting soya milk, kind of nutty creaminess. The mouthfeel is much thicker, it's much more present. It's just a tea which has bundles of character to it, compared with this nice, elegant, light tea, which is very, very pleasant, and I would drink it very, very happily. But it's not worth the price tag. And so I look at it and go, why is this tea, which doesn't have as much character as this, the same price? And the reason is, in my opinion, that it's overinflated because of all the factors that I was talking about, but specifically the reputation of Huangshan Maofeng, this famous, uber famous Chinese green tea that every tea seller feels the need to have in their catalog year in, year out, because they know people are searching for it. So the basic point that I'm trying to get across with this video is that price is not a direct, it does not form a direct relationship with the quality of the experience. There are so many factors which affect the price tag, and therefore, you can't use price as your defining factor of whether or not a tea is high quality or is going to give you that incredible tea session. And that is why you should never just buy according to price or according to reputation. And I consider it my job, this is my purpose as a tea sourcer, to curate a selection of teas that I feel represent good value for money for the experience. And what we try to do when we're buying for Mayleaf is make sure that we are constantly weighing those two factors. What's the cup experience like, and is it worth the value, the cost, the price tag? Now, sometimes, occasionally, we find teas which two teas of the same type which have vastly different price tags. Maybe one is half the price of the other. But the one that is double the price is incrementally slightly higher quality in terms of the experience in the cup, but really very, very subtle, very, very incremental. And so what we try to do is make sure we buy at that cusp where the value to quality experience is at its peak. If we find that between two teas with a vast price difference, the quality or the experience is minute, we're talking about the smallest subtleties, then we will always make sure we buy the one that will give you the biggest bang for your buck in terms of experience. And so for Mayleaf, when we're selecting our teas, we have very, very clear rules that we follow. The first is that we never pre-buy. We never do deals with farmers or producers where we already have purchased their tea before they've produced it, because we need to judge quality, and the consistency from the same farmer year in, year out will change dramatically. We've seen that time and time again. So what we do is we try to spread our network as wide as possible. We incorporate farmers, we incorporate producers, we also incorporate provincial wholesalers so that we get as many samples as we can so that we can select hopefully the best tea of any particular year. The second rule really is that we always taste blind. We take away all influence of price, all influence of reputation, of terroir, of where it was grown. We try to just make ourselves blind to all of that information, and we judge a tea purely on the experience during the tea session. The next rule is that once we know the price of the tea, we then have to assess whether or not it offers good value, if it's something that we think is worth the price. And we do that by looking at the historical data of a tea. So for example, we know certain teas are increasing in price, and we have to accept that there's going to be an increase in price. But then we also compare the price not just within a tea variety, so we're not just going to compare Huangshan Maofeng with other Huangshan Maofengs, but we'll compare it to other green teas and other tea types, so oolong teas, black teas, and we look at the whole spectrum of the different tea experiences and try to curate a collection that gives you the best experiences for the price points. And finally, what we make sure we never do, and we can't do, is we never have a standard list of teas. Simply because of all that I've told you, we have to select according to the experience and then the value, and therefore there will be certain teas that don't quite make the mark. For example, Hokui or Monkey Picked, we're not going to get it this year, again, unless something dramatically changes and a new sample suddenly appears on my table that is incredible. We're not going to buy it simply on the basis that we haven't found a good enough tea at its price point for its experience, and therefore making sure that you guys are aware that we will never have a standard list. It will always be changeable. It's always going to be curating season by season to make sure that we give you the best value that we can. Now, that leads us to the final question. Is tea overpriced? And the very simple answer to that is no. Now, I know that value is dependent on many things. Value is dependent upon how much you love the taste or the experience of it. It's dependent on your income level, how much money you can actually afford to spend. But if you look at it, even the most kind of top-end teas out there, you're talking your Gushu raw pu'ers, we're talking, you know, your kind of very rarefied teas, generally they'll cost something in the region of about 50 cents to $1 per gram. Is kind of like your top level teas. Now, there are teas that are more expensive than that, but we're talking about the majority of your top level teas, 30, 50 cents up to $1 per gram. If you think of it, an average tea session for 150 ml, you'll be using, let's say, an average of about 5 grams of tea. So we're talking about $2.50 to $5 per session, and that session will serve multiple people, 2, 3, 4 people, and it will produce, you know, definitely at least a liter of highest quality tea. I think that represents extremely good value for money when you think about the level of dedication, passion, work, effort that goes into this product. It's incredible that it's actually this affordable. So $2.50 to $5 for a full session of the finest quality of tea that you can drink for yourself and share with others. When you compare that to the likes of wine, I mean, what can $2.50 to $5 get you in terms of quality wine? Very, very little, I would say. So, you know, compared to wine, compared to a lot of other products, tea is extremely affordable. And even if you take the most extreme case, let's say the Gleaming Brows of this world, the finest quality ginger and maize that are produced in such small quantities that it's going for something like $30 for a 5 gram portion. $30 is, you know, $30 as a celebration, as a celebratory occasion with your family. You know, people wouldn't blink at spending $30 for a fine bottle of wine, but you know, the experience of such an incredible rare tea like the best high quality, authentic ginger and maize out there, you know, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, but I hope you agree as tea lovers out there, it represents incredible value for money. So in my opinion, tea is far, far, far away from being overpriced. And depending on your price point, there is a true tea definitely out there for you. I hope that this video has given you some insight into the factors which affect the price of tea so that you can make better buying decisions. That's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then make sure you hit it with a thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlist and let us know if there are any videos that you would like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then please fire them over. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.